Well, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol Baskin, and there's so few of us, I can actually call you out by name. There's Deb and Karen and MJ, of course, who's going to be our guest tonight, and Buck and Marcia and Barb and Nisha and Marcy and Diana and Pauline. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. MJ, open up your speaker. I want to talk to you, girlfriend.
Hey, Carol, how are you tonight?
I'm good. So can you tell everybody what you do currently at Big Cat Rescue?
I am a senior keeper, so I get to work with every cat on property except for Kimba and Manny.
Yeah, they're scary.
Yeah, they're scary. But I feed them, I clean them, check all their enclosures, offer them enrichment, offer them operant. And I've just recently started grooming, and I now have 2 grooming cats.
And for people that don't know, what do you mean by grooming?
For some of our older cats and our declawed cats, they are not able to remove mats that may have developed on their fur. So we use extendable back scratchers, and we help scratch them, and we manipulate any mats that might be there. So far, I've been successful with King Tut and somewhat successful with Beecher.
Wow. When did you actually start coming out to Big Cat Rescue to volunteer?
I started volunteering in March of 2018, so I've been there a little over 4 years.
How did you first hear about it?
I actually was introduced to Big Cat Rescue back in 2005.
Wow.
My husband at the time brought me out there, and we did all of the tours that were available at the time. We did the night tour, we did a feeding tour, we did the keeper tour, and I just got hooked. Zabu and Cam, they were my favorites from the get-go, and I donated in their behalf, and then I brought my husband back out in I think we came out, I believe it was the year before I started volunteering. 2017, I brought him out for his birthday, and we kind of did the same thing. We did the night tour, we did the keeper tour, and we did the feeding tour. And it was in the fall that I actually did my application, but due to scheduling conflicts with my job, it took me several months before I could actually make orientation. So I made orientation in February, and I started volunteering in March.
And then you've said you progressed to senior keeper. So can you tell people what you had to progress through to get to senior keeper?
You start out as a partner, and you spend the first 2 months, if you want to progress, the first 2 months are actually done in the gift shop, giving tours, learning how everything runs on that side of it. And as I progressed through that, I decided I wanted to move to the keeper side. So then I became a keeper trainee and literally just had to learn the process and go through the different levels. You start out as a red shirt, and once you've completed all of those, then you can progress to yellow, which gives you other cats. At the time, red shirt dealt with all of the smaller cats, the hybrids, the bobcats, and the lynxes. Once you went to yellow, at that time, we had our cougars. And so I was able to work around them. And then as I progressed through all of those levels in yellow, I progressed into green. And I am now certified to clean, feed, offer operant, do enrichment, and I do supplements with the cats that we still have that are on supplement. And now grooming. That's my newest one.
Well, that's quite a lot of responsibility. And each one of those shirt levels that you described has even more hours required.
Yes, ma'am. It started out, I believe it was 16, or maybe it was 8 when I first started. And then yellow shirt, you had to do 16, and then it was maybe 24. I know I have to do 32 now. I forget what the initials were, but I have to do a minimum of 32 hours a month to maintain my current level.
And were you working the same kind of job when you first met us in 2005 that you're working now?
I have actually I'm a law enforcement officer, and I've been in law enforcement since 1995.
Wow.
So yes, ma'am. I've been involved in law enforcement a long time. 10 years with my previous agency, and my current agency, I'm going into 18 years.
Wow. That's like more time than necessary to retire.
Actually, I am retiring January 7th of 2023.
And, from what you're telling me, you had such a keen desire to be working with the cats, but yet there was this huge gap of time between 2005 and 2013. Was that because of your work schedule?
Yes, ma'am. I work 12 and a quarter hours when I work. I work 15 days out of the month. And with my current department, they rotate between days and nights. For 12 weeks, I'm on nights, which I'm currently on, and I'm actually about to go back to day shift, so I'll be on days for 12 weeks. So it rotates. So it's sometimes a little challenging to make my days, because I also have court or depositions that correlate with my job. So sometimes my days and my weeks get a little challenging. But yes, when I finally made the decision to come over full time, to try to volunteer, I stuck with it, and here we are. I'm a senior keeper, and I have been for a couple of years now.
My brother was retired from the sheriff's department after 20 years, and I remember throughout his career there, this notion of being like on days and then on nights, and it's like you never get a chance to really get accustomed to the different time changes. And I'm curious if you know why on earth they do that to the people who are keeping us safe.
You know what? We just, interestingly enough, most of the agencies within Polk County, because that's where my agency is. I work for a city, but most of the agencies within Polk County have stepped away from that rotating schedule. The powers to be in my department sometimes make decisions, and they're not the ones doing it anymore, but it is very challenging. I find it takes me a lot longer to acclimate from days to nights than it used to when I was younger. But now my goal, I see that light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm thankful that I've been able to do this career as long as I have, but I'm also to the point now where I know it's time. I've had a good career. It's time to go. And that's what my focus is now. Is I'm working on my plan B, and hopefully being able to spend more time out with the cats as well.
Well, I love hearing that. It's my understanding that your job and your interactions with cats kind of crossed at one point. Can you talk to people about what that was about?
Yeah, this was actually even before I knew about Big Cat Rescue. This was very early in my career when I worked over in Seminole County. I worked for the sheriff's office over there, and I worked in the northeastern and part of the county, and some of it was rural. It was bear country. There were some very well developed and nice neighborhoods out there. But one night I was dispatched to a call reference to a bear cub in a tree, which is not an uncommon call we get. And generally I get out there and I just tell the resident who's making the phone call, he'll eventually go away. Just leave him alone. Don't bother him. And, we go about our night. Well, what I didn't know until I stepped into the home and was speaking with the homeowner, she was concerned about this bear cub who was in a limb above her pool enclosure. As we stepped into the pool enclosure itself, the homeowner proceeds to advise me that she owns an exotic big cat, and it was in its night enclosure, which was contained within the pool enclosure. And she had fortified her pool enclosure except for the roof. And her concern was if the bear cub lost its footing, fell through the pool enclosure, that the big cat would somehow go crazy and try to get to the bear cub. I could hear the cat rustling in its cage. I never actually saw it because I didn't necessarily want to get close enough. But yeah, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I just wanted to step away from the pool enclosure.
Wow. This is like the poster child for why we need the Big Cat Public Safety Act, because law enforcement and first responders, when you're coming in and having to deal with something else, you don't need that on top of everything else.
No, ma'am. It would have been bad enough that the bear cub fell into the pool enclosure, but to have an exotic cat also within that same confound, I'm not sure what I would have done, except for retreat and possibly have to destroy both the cat and the bear.
That's actually happened in other locations where there were cats running loose that law enforcement had to shoot the animals, and years later they're dealing with the PTSD of having to kill such a magnificent animal. And you're somebody who really loves big cats, so I can't even imagine what that would do to your psyche.
Yeah, if I were to have to encounter something similar to, like the awful ordeal that Ohio had to deal with, and even recently, we've obviously we've seen them wandering and been able to capture. But if I come across the tiger just wandering in a neighborhood, the only tools I have at my disposal in the immediate onset is I have a firearm, a rifle, and a shotgun. I don't have a tranquilizer gun. I would have to destroy that animal because I have to worry about the well-being of the people in that area.
And even if you had a tranquilizer gun, they're so amped up when they're running around loose that you'd probably have to shoot them 3 different times to get them enough drugs in them to actually bring them down. So it's not like what people see on TV where you dart it and they fall over asleep.
No, not at all. We've seen that firsthand when we've watched procedures with Dr. Justin. It's not an immediate action. And that just might make that animal more angry. And now I have a new problem. So, yeah, it would be unfortunate. But even back in the day, I remember leaving that call and going back and telling my sergeant, my shift mates that, gee, have you ever been to this house before? Do you know what she's got in that pool? And she was in a very well-to-do neighborhood. So if that cat breached its enclosure and it got out, we would have to destroy it. That just the simple fact. We would not be able to do anything but destroy it. And that's unfortunate.
And my guess is nobody in your department even knew that cat was there.
No, my shift mates had never been out there for calls for service and did not know about it until I made them all aware.
This is so often the case. I remember one of the captains from the Florida Wildlife Commission was put on the spot, and they were asking her how many tigers were in Florida. And back then she said she thought that there were about 1,500 tigers in Florida, and in a perfect world, they'd know where they were. And I remember sitting there thinking, in a perfect world? What are you talking about?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, so that's the problem, is we don't know where those cats are. And, first responders, be it law enforcement, be it fire department, be it EMS, we all generally go to a scene together, but some of these, the fire department goes to fires. We don't always go. EMS just goes to medical calls. We don't always go. And they're not armed. They have hoses with water shooting out of them, or, the EMS guys, you're not going to get close enough to use anything they have on their belt, so to speak. So, yeah, it's scary to know that we have so many out there and we don't know what their locations are.
Did you see the coverage of the tiger that was wandering around loose in Dallas last year?
I did. Wow, that was wild.
What did you think of that guy, that off-duty officer?
He maintained, and I don't remember who it was that actually captured that animal. I think it was the owner that finally came out. But yeah, he was left with a very difficult decision. If that animal had charged, he would have had no other choice. We're back to, we don't have the tools, and we're not going to take chances with a big cat like that, because they can hurt us faster than anything else. They're fast, they're strong, and the only recourse we have is our sidearm or a rifle. And it's just ignorance is hard to overlook sometimes.
For anybody who didn't actually see that footage, I remember somebody had filmed it on their phone. And so they were like, shaking in their house through the window of this off-duty officer who had his weapon drawn at the tiger. And he's ordering the tiger back, and the tiger is just coming toward him, but he doesn't shoot the cat. And that guy had like nerves of steel. And what I noticed about it was that you could hear like a children's birthday party or something going on. And that was just, that's like a moth to the flame for that tiger to go after all of those children. So he was in a really bad position, because I'm sure he could hear it too. Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Children are small, and that in the eyes of a wild animal, that's an easy target.
Yeah. Even if they don't, it was a young cat, and it probably would not have killed somebody out of being a adult, because it wasn't an adult, but just playing with the child and tackling the child, they could easily kill them, because their teeth just go through us like a hot knife through butter.
Absolutely. We've watched, if anybody watches our cameras when we're feeding those animals and we're feeding our cats, we give them turkey drums, whole turkey drums. And that's about the thickness of my forearm. And they just bite right through it. And I can't imagine having a child's arm, because they would just destroy that child and injure that child beyond repair.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for what you do for the big cats and for everybody else, keeping all of us safe. I see Deb is clapping there. Deb, did you have any questions for MJ?
I do, and it's not necessarily big cat related, but I remember seeing on your Facebook feed back maybe a year or two ago, where you helped capture an alligator out from under a car.
The stories of our lives. We do deal with wildlife. Alligators are the most predominant, because obviously Florida has large bodies of water. This alligator was approximately 6 feet. I believe when we did an estimated measurement of her. We had to use a snatch pole. We got it out from under the car. Then we were trying to, my partners, I had the towel in the car to cover the crazy thing. And then my guys jumped on her. We got her taped up. We loaded her in the back of our pickup truck that we have at the police department, took her down to a local lake, took her out of the truck, untaped her mouth, and we let her go. And so, that's the typical wildlife call that we would get. And back in the day, they don't do it anymore, but back in the day during the police academy, they actually trained us on how to capture an alligator.
I was just wondering that. It's like, what, did you guys watch YouTube videos? Or?
Well, a couple of the guys that I work with are trappers. So if they have a nuisance gator, their family have been involved in trapping. But back in the days, they would teach us in the academy how to properly capture an alligator. It takes a couple people, and what people some don't realize, if you can get their mouth closed and keep pressure on their mouth and get it taped, you're fine. It's when the pressure and the damage is when they have it open and then clamp down on you. But if you can get it closed and keep it closed long enough to tape it, you've taken away part of their defense. Now their tails will hurt you too. You have to be very careful with them. They used to teach us how to wrangle alligators in the academy. And I've just learned over the years how to do it just by being with some of my shift mates, because we've done it more than once.
That's just beyond crazy to me. I just hope when I'm down there, I don't encounter an alligator, because I'm going to have to call you to help me out.
Well, it'll just take a couple of us, but we can do it.
mean, I know that is probably improbable, but man, those things scare me.
They are unpredictable. I will say that, but it's just one of the many things that we deal with in law enforcement. Alligators people call because there's snakes in their homes. I don't think I've had anything too crazy other than alligator, snake, or early on that incident with the bear. We get a lot of bear calls, but again, we don't do anything with them. We just tell people, leave them alone, they will go away.
So I guess if you could, knowing that you have had that encounter back, in the early days of your career, if you could speak to someone who was trying to explain away the fact that, these big cats are pets, or, it's okay to have them in a cage, or, that kind of thing, what would you say to them as a law enforcement officer?
As a law enforcement officer, just as a person in general, and I guess it would encompass both law enforcement and personal, I don't believe that these cats need to be in private homes. I don't like the fact that they're in cages. We do the best that we can with what we provide these cats that we have, but these cats need to be in the wild. They don't need to be in cages, and people just don't need to have them in their home. It's not safe, and they don't I don't know how they rationalize keeping them as pets. And, touching them, I wouldn't touch our cats. Even, I touch our cats with scratchers, and they're little cats. I mean, King Tut and Beecher, they're little. I wouldn't want to try to do anything with touching a big cat or trying to have it in the home with me. That's just a scary thing to do. And I just think that's somebody's ignorance, and somebody wanted to show off. And I find that very harmful for the cat, and I find it ignorant on that person's. I don't agree with it at all, and I would be very boisterous about it.
I think one of the things that concerns me is that these cats are in homes or backyards or basements in places where, there are people living. There are neighborhoods of people. There are schools, there are churches, there are, daycares. And like you were talking earlier, if one of these cats get loose, you've got so many potential targets that it's just, to me, it's just beyond scary of, the horrific things that could happen. And the sooner we get this law passed, the better.
Yes, ma'am. The sooner that we can end the private ownership, and the illegal trading around, and finding ways for better documentation of where these cats are, because that's what law enforcement or first responders need. We need to know where these animals are, because in the event of an incident, we have to be able to take care of it and protect the people that are living around it. And, we always say when we were doing tours, your neighbor could have a big cat in their backyard, and you don't know it until a problem occurs. And then what do you do? It's very scary. And, thankfully I've not encountered another incident like I did early in my career. But yeah, that one was enough to definitely make my hair stand on my neck.
Well, thank you for your service to the community for all of these years. That's just amazing. And for what you do for the cats and all the time that you spend there. Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Because I have the ear thing in here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Fabulous. I just wondered, MJ, if your fellow law enforcement network of people, do they see the need for the Big Cat Public Safety Act? I mean, maybe they see, if they weren't on that call with you, but when you tell people about what you do when you're not at work, what do they say? How do they feel about it? Or do you not really even interfere? I mean, not even really have your worlds mesh like that. But
well, everybody at my current department, they all know what I do when I'm not at work.
Okay.
And so, a lot of questions came about. Obviously, more questions came about after Tiger King, of course. That brought out the light, and everybody's like, does that really happen? Well, obviously, you just watched a lot of it. And yes, this is what happens. These people, some of these animals end up in private homes. And until you encounter, you've encountered maybe an alligator. You've maybe encountered a snake. But when you're standing there face to face, potentially with a 300 to 400 pound big cat, what are you going to do? And, so a lot of more questions came after Tiger King. And, it's like, guys, we don't need these animals in backyard. We actually live in an area that I think used to have some sort of big cat, like a big cat sanctuary or a big cat, and I'm not exactly sure where it was. But I think there used to be one somewhere here in Polk County. But we've had a lot of, there's a lot of areas around here where we've had retired circus animals, and it's just not something we need in our backyard. And people, we've talked about it a little bit. And like I said, I've not encountered anything here in Polk County, so to speak, but we don't need it. And I've expressed that to these guys. I'm like, you guys need to be mindful of this. This could potentially happen to you. Right. You could encounter it. What are you going to do?
I mean, it's so foreign to me. I live in New Jersey, and I live in a beautiful area. I actually live on an acre, and all the homes in the area that I live on are these big pieces of land. But if you picture what New Jersey looks like on a whole, the most densely populated state, there really is no room for a tiger in a backyard. And obviously, it's illegal as well. We had a little Bengal kitty walking around, and one of the kids told their parents, actually walked through during when the kids were on the playground, and he told his mom there was a tiger on the playground. So of course that created this big thing on the mom's pages all over the place. And I thought about it. I was like, Florida's an alternate universe. It's like completely different. Like, you guys have all these rescues and places. We have these little zoos. In fact, I was at one today with my granddaughter, just walking around with my daughter and the baby. And I thought how different Florida is. So to me, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that you guys could actually face this giant beast. And no one loves them more than I do. But that's not something I ever want to encounter. So that's why I wondered if your fellow officers see that. And because we push it every day, we're always talking about it, I did wonder if that was something they thought about too. But thank you for what you do. It's so exciting that you do that. And thank you for answering my question.
No problem. Have a good one, Karen.
Thank you.
The place that you're talking about, MJ, I think was probably Horseshoe Creek in Haines City. And it was such a horrible, horrible place. Oh my gosh. They had flatbed trailers with cages on top, and that's where their leopards lived. And they lived there because the cages they had actually built for them flooded all the time, and the cats were always like up to their armpits in water back there, and snakes and everything else. And despite being such a filthy, horrible place, neither USDA nor the Florida Wildlife Commission were willing to do anything about it. And so one of the inspectors who really wanted to put an end to the abuse there, what he managed to do was to catch the guy on fraud charges. And what the guy was doing was people that needed like community service hours, he would sign off saying that they had spent those hours at his place cleaning cat cages even when they hadn't. And so they were able to catch him doing that kind of thing and shut him down.
Well, don't commit a fraud, because we will go after you for that. We may not go after you for big cats, but commit the fraud, and that's fraudulent. Yeah, they have to document, and we do it. We have kids come in, or we have people come through, and we have to sign off that they were there and that they committed and they did those hours. And if you sign off and they didn't, that will come back to get you. So I'm glad they found a way around it. It's unfortunate they couldn't do it a different way, though.
Deb, I don't know what order you see people on the screen here, so I'm going to let you call up whoever's next.
Daniel, did you have a question or comment for MJ?
Yes. Hold on one second. I completely forgot that this was today. So I'm on the treadmill at the moment, but I can still ask a question. MJ, you've been a big cat for a long time. So I'm going to make this current cat question. Which of the current cats that live there now has the best personality? Or should I say personality?
Oh, well, the cats that I work with, not only feeding, but I have cats assigned to me that are operant cat. And Jasmine's my favorite, I will say, of the big cats. But Tut, now that I am grooming him, he is becoming a favorite of mine because I get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with him when we're doing the grooming session. And it's great because if he's into the grooming session, I can sit with him for more than 20 minutes and just groom him with this extender. And I've been successful in getting some mats off of him. So Jasmine probably first as far as the big cats, and then obviously Tut as far as the smaller big cat.
Now, the only other thing with King Tut is getting him to eat.
You know, I God love our meds people. They do their best, and we offer him everything and anything, and eventually he will eat. I have found that he sometimes likes an audience, so after they've fed, I may go sit and talk to him. But yeah, he is our finicky one. We all wish he would eat better, and we just offer him anything and everything until we get it right.
Yes, Tut gets his own charcuterie board.
Yes, he does.
Thank you, MJ.
Diana, you were actually next. So I know on my screen you don't show up as next, but I know that you were. So did you have a question or comment for MJ? Be sure to take your mic off of mute.
Oh, is it on? In here?
It is. Yes, you're on now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. MJ, I just wanted to comment. I think, well, first of all, I'm proud to know you as an officer, so thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
And the fact that you also are also with BCR is just amazing to me. So kudos. A question. Have you had a chance to meet Coda yet?
I have seen Coda from a distance. Right now, she's still on a 30-day quarantine, and so she's only being up close and personal with staff members. And once her quarantine is done, then they will start to introduce additional keepers. I believe coordinators will be first, and then we'll work from there. But I seen her from afar, and she just kind of watched us. We were on the tour path, and she was back by one of the concrete dens, and just kind of looked over the den at us. But it'll be nice to get to meet her as she becomes more comfortable.
That will be cool. Question. Which of the cats, big and small, have you had to work the hardest to become friends with?
Oh, hardest to become friends with.
You know, sometimes they're kind of offish, and they know the people they like, and they know the people they want to take time to get to.
Yeah. I've with grooming right now. Probably right now, my biggest challenge is Beecher. Sometimes he likes me, sometimes he doesn't. And I work really hard to get him comfortable with me for the grooming session. Most of the other kids, all of our servals, love them to pieces. Every time I'm there, they hiss at me. I just take that as that's what I'm gonna get. Max and Marianne, those two are fun. They are operant cats of mine, and any opportunity, Marianne likes to make sure that she knows that I'm hers. So she will, if I'm cleaning around little cats that day or trying to do operant, she will tend to pee on me. But everybody that I have as far as cats, probably the most challenging are, Beecher's been my challenge lately because like I said, I'm now grooming him. So he's kind of my challenge. The bigger ones, Jasmine comes anytime, she's in vacation rotation right now. And when I was there last week, she was out in the middle and I called to her to come for operant and she come running over. So she knows me, and then she also knows, hey, I'm getting a treat. So she comes right over. I don't think any of them I've had any real difficult with, but I love them all to pieces. So
they're all pretty special from just being a part of it now and watching and listening and all of this, just to me amazing. So thank you so much. You guys, everybody take care.
Hi, Nisa, you are next. Did you have a question or comment for MJ?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is going to be a hard one probably, but what was the thing that emotionally impacted you the most regarding the animals at BCR?
Oh, emotionally. Well, first and foremost, most of them have come from horrible backgrounds. We've all heard their stories. We've all read their stories. And just to know what they suffered through to begin with, that in itself, and the fact that they're in a cage, they were not ever meant to live in cages. And unfortunately, we can't change that for those cats. We can only make their lives the best we can with the time we have them. And Carol has done a great job when she designed this and built this sanctuary. Not that that was her initial intent, but she and Jamie and all of us, we work very hard to make sure these cats are cared for in the best possible way. And all of our goals would be that they wouldn't be there, that they would be free running in an open area to roam like they should be. So the hardest part is what they came from, and we're making their lives better, and we're doing the best we can for them under the circle.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Barb. Did you have a question or comment for MJ?
Yeah, hello. More of a comment, I guess. Because I used to volunteer at a zoo. We haven't, since COVID, they haven't let us back in, which is kind of sad because I really wish we could have been back at the zoo when the whole Tiger King was blowing up. But I would get people in there all the time. Oh, I want a tiger, or this or that. Or, and up here in Minnesota, we've had our share of exotic animals running amok. And, I'd be like, have you guys ever been followed by, like, say, a strange pit bull that you don't know? I mean, or a German shepherd, or, how do you feel that way? Just think of it as a tiger. I mean, one of these gets loose, because, I've been followed home before by strange dogs, and you're just like, who are you, and what is your intent, And, I'm going, what if it was your neighbor's tiger doing this, I'm just kind of going,
Now, I will say this, my shift mates, they know if we have a dog call or a cat call, I'm the first one they're calling. Mary, come over and help with this. I will say that one of my current cat, who I still have, and he's not the first, I have actually brought cats home that I have found on the street of Lake Wells, which is the city I work for. But if we have an aggressive dog, I have been one of those that I don't stand down from dogs, and that could get me in trouble sometime. But it would be a different thing if it was a large cat, because I wouldn't want to confront that. Whereas a dog or a cat, I will. I have actually I've used our snatch pole, and I've actually put dogs in cars and kennels and stuff like that. But yeah, I get stalked enough by our big cats now, and I'm always watching over my shoulder. When we walk around vacation rotation, they like to stalk us. It's fun because I just catch glimpses of them as I'm walking around that enclosure, and they want to play, but it's like, I wouldn't want you following me outside of this cage.
Well, yeah, because I would have people who would ask me, so if we went in the tiger's cage, would it kill us? And I'm like, well, I might play with you and tenderize you, and then maybe. But, these are not animals that are out looking for lunch.
No.
They're
And
looking for fun. You're a toy.
Exactly, you're a toy, and that's the question that everybody always asks. Well, you don't touch them? And no, I don't touch. That's not what they want. That's rude. But everybody always wants to know. Oh, don't you touch them? Don't you touch them? No, I don't touch these cats. These cats would rip my arm off in a heartbeat, and obviously, we know that from an incident that happened in Florida recently, where somebody who was in a position at a zoo, and I'm sure Carol and everybody's heard it, in a position at a zoo and he went behind a barricade where he had no business being, and then he sticks his hand in. Oh, hey,
yep. Hi, yeah, lunch.
And the unfortunate part there is even the keeper who came, you could hear, because we actually have. I don't know if it's been released publicly, but in law enforcement field, it's been released. We actually have heard the 911 call. And we have heard all of what transpired once that 911 call came in. And there's a keeper that comes up that is familiar with the tiger, and she is calling to try to get him to release, and he wouldn't release the guy. And unfortunately, that deputy had to shoot the cat and ultimately destroy that cat. But that wasn't somebody who was ignorant and thought, hey, let's do this. And now we have lost another gorgeous cat because of somebody's ignorance. And
we've had people where they put their kids on the fence, and they had a cougar the kid backed up and the cougar could get the claws out.
Well, yeah, hello. Ignorance.
We thought, we thought, oh no, if you're gonna don't kill that cat. I mean, a bunch of us went off to Como Zoo like, you're not killing that cat for scratching that baby,
right?
Which they did not. They did not.
Right.
But we were all scared. But yeah, I always, like I say, I'm just going, you want these animals, people think they're great pets. And I'm like, if you've never encountered like a dog that you don't know, I mean, it's just a dog.
And if you're afraid of dogs, that makes it even worse.
Yeah,
like I said,
I've had it at night where I've mostly been encountered, and I'm like, oh, goody, I can't see you because you're like in the dark.
I will say pepper spray and mace work well on dogs.
Yeah, I didn't have that. And I'm like, I can't outrun you, so we'll just have to go Incredible Hulk on you because that's the only thing I can do. I never saw dust fly as that dog turned around and ran so fast. It was amazing. Yeah, thank you. But thank you for everything you do.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
MJ, as you were talking just then, it occurred to me that not the first time it's occurred to me, but tonight it occurred to me that I think the reason some of these people think that, oh, I can walk up and touch a big cat is because of what they're seeing on social media. And it is all over social media. And when I see it, I call them out. And it's, in the beginning, it was just a lot of hate, in the comments replying back to me. But in recent weeks and recent months, it's actually a lot of positive comments and like, yeah, what do you think you're doing? And, people supporting the fact that, yeah, this is not right. So I think we have seen the tide turn. And I think more people are becoming aware of the fact that this, what they're seeing on social media is not right, and we need to stop it.
Yes, I know Carol is watching. I will say I have not watched any part of Tiger King because the one part that I did get brought into, because they happened to be watching it when we were stuck in our office during COVID, was the one scene, and I hear it every time when everybody's, oh, did you watch Tiger King? The one scene that I saw and swore I would not watch was when Joe Exotic, the tiger, had just had the cubs, and Joe is pulling those cubs out, basically like scraper pulls that we use, pulling these cubs away from mom, and the cubs squealing and crying for mom. And that was the only part I saw, and I literally walked out of the room. I was like, I can't watch this because you guys don't understand. And Tiger King, as poor as it was, from what I understand, has obviously brought some light to the demise and the abuse that's happened to these cats, which, okay, take that as a plus, maybe.
I agree, and I'm right there with you. I didn't watch it either. I just couldn't make myself do it. But on the other hand, I have seen Conservation Game, and I have seen Joe vs. Carol, and I have seen Hidden Tiger, and those are all very well done and do a much better job of explaining.
Yes, I did watch the Conservation Game. I have not watched it. I have not watched Joe versus Carol yet, but I did watch the Conservation Game, and yes, definitely much more of where we need people to understand what's going on with these cats.
Right, and there's some kind of comical stuff in the Joe versus Carol that's not true. We've had that conversation, but the point gets across, and I've seen a lot more positive comments and things that are positive in that regard.
Yeah, we're making headway. People are realizing what has truly been going on now. They're seeing the reality.
Have you seen Carol Baskin's Cage Fight? Have you seen that one?
No, I have not yet. It's one of those things I have to sit down and remember to turn on the television and do something that's not work related, so to speak. So sometimes I get caught up in other things, and it's just one of those. But I do want to watch that one, and I do want to I do want to see the Joe versus Carol as well.
Yeah, Carol Baskin's Cage Fight I thought was great, of course. But Joe versus Carol, I sat down with the intent of watching one episode and then watched it through the night. They finished watching it at 4:30 in the morning one weekend. Just because it's like, okay, now what's going to happen next? What's going to be next? So, but all those are shows that at least have a little bit more truth to them than the first.
Right. What was presented to everybody is
right.
Yeah.
And there's also the BBC special called Shooting Joe Exotic that just came out also on Peacock. So it's on the same channel with Joe versus Carol.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to make a post about that tomorrow, but that's out there too, and I want to see that as well because I've heard really good things about that one as well. Carol, before we close and talk about next week, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, just thank you everybody for joining us in this middle of the week, different kind of thing that we had going on tonight to accommodate MJ's schedule. And thank you, MJ, so much for being here with us tonight. If you are still a speaker, how about opening up your mic and tell MJ how much you love her?
Thank you, MJ.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, MJ.
Thank you for everything you do.
Love you, girlfriend.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, next week, so we will not have a Twitter space this coming Saturday because it was tonight instead. But the following Saturday, which is the 26th of March, is going to be a really special Twitter space. All of the main players, I guess is the best way to put that, of the Conservation Game are going to be joining us. So it will be Michael Weber. It will be Jeff Kramer. It will be Carrie Ann, I think she has a hyphenated last name, but I can't remember it right now. And Carol, of course, will be with us. Did I miss anybody, Carol?
Did you have Tim Harrison?
Oh, yeah, Tim Harrison.
The star.
Sorry. I only have my phone tonight. I feel like I've lost an arm tonight because I don't have my computer in front of me to be able to look up things. So yes, Tim will be there as well. So that will be a great Twitter space. So be sure and set a reminder for that night. And it will be a great space for us to have that evening and hear them talk about the Conservation Game.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you for being here tonight, and have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on the 26th.
Good night.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks, Carol.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, MJ.